Hey everyone, Gender Queer Chat, week 122 maybe? It's Joe here on Fridays, and we have a really good topic this week. It was selected by Chris. I really like it. What are the childhood things whose constant and blatant gendering by society are most bothersome to you? Childhood things. This one was pretty easy for me because I see it every day. I work in this public school system, so I'm in elementary schools all the time. And it's clothing and backpacks and lunchboxes, and it's whatever is marketed to children. And I guess the question was, no, it wasn't toys. But I'm going to call it princess culture, is what I'm going to call it. This is the thing that drives me up the freaking wall. When I was a kid, I have pictures of myself. Actually, I'm going to splice them in, because you know that's what I do. I do this every week. I have pictures of myself growing up in the 70s, wearing little outfits that kids in the 70s wore, which would be like cords or jeans and turtlenecks and stuff like that. And I'm going to splice those pictures in right here, and I want you to have a good chuckle about what a little girl in the 70s was dressed like. Okay, did you see those? That is nothing like kids dress today. Nothing. The kids today, and I was kind of meaning all week, but I was busy at work all week, to take some pictures of just in the hallways at a lot of the schools. They have the little hooks on the wall with the kids' coats and stuff and backpacks, and it's just all Disney princess shite. All of it. Pink Disney princess shite. And the boys is all Bob the Builder, and you can't get away from this. You cannot get away. You can't buy a little pair of jeans and a little red turtleneck and maybe or brown cords or something like that. For kids, you can't. They just don't exist. They have stuff with logos on it, usually Disney logos, or TV, you know, whatever licensed TV shows, Spider-Man or whatever for the boy. It's just crazy. And all the pink Disney princess shit. And I don't understand why you have to really dress your gender. Why can't you just dress like a kid, like dress in some clothes that are durable for, you know, mucking around in? And I remember when we were kids, we always wore cords, and the knees would always wear out on your cords. You always had big flat beige patches on your brown cords. Anyway, the genderification of clothing for children drives me through the roof. Now, recently I heard an amazing documentary, and I will attempt to find the link and link to it down below, but I believe her name is Orenstein? I can't remember her first name. Peggy? I think it's Peggy Orenstein wrote a book called, and I think I mentioned it in a previous video. Yeah, it's Peggy Orenstein, and she wrote a book called something My Daughter. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's about the princessification of all the girls, and it's something like You Can't Have My Daughter. I'll put the title down below. And she talks about how Disney in about 2000, I think, was the turning point, or maybe it was the 90s. But there was a point when Disney released movies, I think on a 7-year cycle. So if Snow White came out or something, they would produce some memorabilia, or, you know, like the propaganda, the merchandising for that movie for a spell, like maybe the toys for the McDonald's Happy Meals or whatever. And I remember when I was a kid, sometimes a movie would come out and everybody would get a little something about that movie. There would be some stuff in the popular culture. But it was gone after that. And if it came back at all, it would come back, I think, in 7 years' time. And so nobody really got on, like, you know, there wasn't like a sensation of it being a 24/7 thing. And Peggy Orenstein says that in around 2000, I think, or whatever year it was, in recent times, Disney made a marketing decision to have princesses marketed 24/7. That this was just a marketing decision to make money, and that we're going to get every little girl to want all the princesses all the time. And that's what they did, and they've succeeded, insanely succeeded at what they set out to do. So now there's this whole series of princesses, and they're all, of course, you know, thin and white, and, you know, with certain facial features that are very racist. And I think even Pocahontas, which was the native character, the native princess or whatever, I've boycotted Disney movies ever since I can remember, so I don't even watch any of these. But apparently there's a character called Pocahontas who, when they drew that character as an animated character, they used I think Christy Turlington as the facial model for it, and she's white, and so this native girl doesn't even look native at all. Makes me crazy. Disney princesses is a big bone of contention with me. Peggy Orenstein also made a very interesting point. No, sorry, this was a different documentary that I was listening to on CBC Radio that was talking about the genderfication of toys, and I will find a link and I will put it down below, about how in the 60s it was a marketing decision to market to boys and girls, have different toys for boys and girls, because up to that point there were things like there were just generic toys. A bike was a bike for, didn't matter, either gender, and you know, like building blocks and stuff like that. Well, come the 70s, there's the Easy Bake Oven, there's the action figure, there's the advent of all these crazy gendered toys, and I think it was a way to get parents to, you know, spend more money, to buy one for your daughter and one for your son. And one of the things they said was that, and this touches on what Chris mentioned in his video, was that the color pink was initially associated with boys' toys and boys' clothing, way back in the day, before the advent of the gentrification. And I think what she said on the documentary was, pink is a lighter form of red, and red is a very masculine color. And so if you wanted to, and blue is that gentle, blue is always considered to be a gentle color, and it's always associated with, you know, calmness and kindness. And to give girls blue things was very, very common. And to give little boys or younger boys something pink, it was just a softer shade of red, which was the masculine color anyway. And then, but at the time, I think she said, like around turn of the century, whatever, all babies wore white. And that white was, because of the nature of hand washing diapers and so forth, that everything was really heavily bleached all the time. And that it was just easier to just bleach all baby things all white all the time. Which I thought was a very interesting take on it, because I don't know a lot about the history of how these things came to be, other than the fact that I grew up in the thick of the start of it all. So I was born in 1972, and we had things like, I had an Easy Bake Oven, and my sister, I just remember we had Cabbage Patch Kid. I had a Cabbage Patch Kid, but I had to beg for it. But I also remember getting a Star Trek action figure, begging for it. My family only celebrated Christmas in this very warped Christian way, but we would get one toy each at Christmas, like one thing, that was it we were allowed to ask for. And I asked for this R2-D2 wind-up toy. I remember, must have been like about $8 or $10, which at the time was a lot of money, right? And I had this wind-up R2-D2, that was my toy. I worked, side note, in 1994, when I was 22, I lived up north in the Canadian Arctic in a town called Iqaluit, and I worked at a series of daycares where I got to see up close and personal how little kids behave, all other things being equal, just playing in a daycare. Your mom dresses you up, takes you to daycare, and you get to play. And I don't know if it was an Inuit culture thing, because the vast majority of the kids where I worked were Inuit children, no, there were a lot of white kids there too, but I remember the Inuit kids that were very gendered. The little girls would always go play in the kitchen, and the little boys would always play on the monkey bars. And there was one little girl named Joy, which was very strange, who looked like a boy. She had a shaved head, and her parents dressed her in gender-neutral clothing, but she had a very gendered name. And she was an Inuit girl. Very quiet kid, and very rough and tumble. And she played on the monkey bars, and she played with the boys. And when I first met her, I remember thinking I got her name wrong. I thought, oh, they must have been pointing to a different kid and calling her Joy by accident, because I thought it was a boy, just based on a shaved head and rambunctious behavior. But all the other little kids, it freaked me out. They had, in Inuit culture, there's a coat that the women wear called an amauti. And it's a big parka with a pouch in the back that the little kid goes in. Then there's also a big hood, but the pouch part is right against the mother's back. And their feet, the little baby's feet, come around the mother's waist. So there's actually two little almost footholes on the waist of the jacket, of the coat. And most Inuit women had an amauti and would carry their baby around on their back. And I remember one day looking over at the little house section where the little kids were playing, and all the little girls had strong slings and were carrying the babies on their back the way their mothers did. It was very weird to me. It was extremely weird to me. But at that time I started to realize that maybe kids just play with their... Like, I wanted to, like, push the little girls to go play on the monkey bars and try and encourage the little boys to go in the house, but they were just going to do what they wanted to do, and I don't know why they wanted to do it. I really don't. That's a big question mark over my head. Checking on the time here. Yeah, I'm running out of time because I'm going to be splicing in pictures. That's true. So I don't know what I think about gendered toys and activities when it's obvious that little kids are going to do what little kids are going to do, but but then is there the question that they're socialized to be that way? I grew up with a very tomboyish mother who allowed me to be my little tomboy self, but I still didn't like sports. I didn't go outside and I wasn't that rough and tumble. I guess, I played in mud puddles. I remember stuff like that. I remember a lot of creative make-believe, playing make-believe. Like my sister and I just always having alternate universes. I had some dolls, I guess. I had a Cabbage Patch Kid. We played a lot of Barbies, but there was demented Barbies. Like there was always plot lines as to what the Barbies were doing. I don't think it was what normal girls were doing. However, I could be wrong. I think that my biggest pet peeve, the question was, what is most bothersome to you? It's the princess shit. That bothers me to no end. I will say quickly that one of the things Peggy Orenstein touches on is what that whole princess culture does is it turns little girls into shallow, believing that beauty is the only thing. What is a princess? She's married to a prince. She's kind of useless in and of herself. She has to be pretty. She has to be saved by some man. Some prince has to kiss her and wake her up or put the shoe on her and take her away. And it teaches you that your only value really lies in being pretty and snagging a man. And I'll never understand why anyone would want to teach their daughter that, ever. Okay, gonna wrap this one up. Catch you guys next week. Bye-bye.